A dot, which is placed right after a note, extends the value of that note by half of whatever it is. So a half note with a dot after it has an extra quarter note added to it. Half of a half note is a quarter note, right? There are 2 beats inside of a half note. Each of those beats is a quarter note. And the dot then is going to add half of the value of the half note, which is a quarter note. So, lining it up with our rhythmic counter, this dotted half note is going to go through beats 1 and 2 because it's a half note, and it's going to have an extra half note, extra quarter note. That'll take it through beat 3, and the next beat will be right here, 4. The next beat with some kind of notation in it. I just want to point out that in 4/4 time, if all you saw in a measure was a half note with a dot after it, and that last quarter note wasn't there, or the equivalent of that last quarter note, then your measure would be written wrong. Every measure has to have 4 beats in 4/4 time. Each beat is a quarter note. Here are 3 of the quarter notes. Here's the 4th quarter note. This measure is now complete. But if this wasn't here, the measure would be incomplete. Or if you had, say, 2 of these here, the measure would be over full. And that's just not allowed. Okay, now we go on to the dotted quarter note in rhythm number 2. What is half of a quarter? I hope you did your 5th grade arithmetic, because it is an 8th note. 1/8. 2/8 makes a quarter, so take one of those 8ths and add it on. Now, let's go up to the counter. Here's the first quarter note. That's 2 1/8 notes. And here's the 3rd 1/8 note, which has been added by the dot. The next point on this rhythm counter that we're obliged to put a note on is going to be the and of 2. And that's what I've done here. I've placed an 1/8 note on the and of 2 and a half note to cover beats 3 and 4. Now down here, just for the sake of showing you what it amounts to, this is a dotted 1/8 note. Half of an 1/8 note, of course, is a 16th note. Dotted 1/8 note has 3 16ths. This is the 4th 16th. 4 16ths is 1/4. So frequently when you have this rhythm, you're going to see it written like this, with a beam here and a second beam here to take the place of the second flag on the 16th note. I could pause here and tell you all about how to count 16th notes, but why don't we deal with that when we come up against it in real examples inside the book. I think that would be much more interesting than me just lecturing. I'm going to get out the guitar now and play rhythms 1 and 2. And after we're done with that, I'm going to talk about rests. Once we've talked about rests, we can go into the musical examples for Excerpt 1. We're back to read rhythm number 1 and number 2 on this whiteboard. I'm going to count 3 times for this half note because it is extended by a quarter note by the dot. Then I'm going to count 4 on this quarter note. Everything is lined up with the appropriate part of the 1/8 note counter on the top. So here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. I'll do it again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, very easy. Number 2 here is going to be counted on this count. 1, 2 is silent, falls right here. This is the and of 2. So the count initially will be 1, and 3, 4. There'll be a skip in the strumming. 1, skip, and 3, 4. Number 2. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, and 3, 4. And now with the skip called out. 1 skip and 3, 4. 1 skip and 3, 4. We are not going to go into how to count these yet until they come up in examples. So thank you very much, and now onward to rests.